Why is God so searching for our love? What drives him? What motivates him? Why? It's just crazy. I think of parents with a difficult child, maybe has some major setbacks or some limitations for learning, for knowing. The love parents have for a child is amazing, and especially if they've gone through a lot with a child in any of the areas, psychologically, physically, health issues, educational issues, socialization issues, rebellion issues. The child came under very bad influences, and now the parents have brought back the child, the effort they've put into the child. And then the child reaches an age where they're into a lot of rebellion, and the parents are still loving that child. And obviously we know that natural love, we see it in nature, where the parents defend their young. But the human being has so much more free will involved, and has given of themselves so much to bring that child to development, that relationship that has grown in the context of that natural love, and then that volitive love, that decided free will love. But imagine God, he created us from nothing, and he created us for glory. And all these other forces that are taking us away, the one who comes at night and sows the weeds among the wheat, even when we are children in our soul's garden, and the effort that God makes to win us back. It's an extraordinary love, to realize that we are so loved. Today we have this type of sentiment expressed in the prophet Hosea, the extraordinary love that God has for us, and the willingness to take us back, the willingness to heal us. And there's a word in there, to heal us from our defection, because an infidelity, and that means defecting, like a soldier defecting from the army in the middle of a battle. And God has this big battle going on in our souls for ourselves, and we're involved with our free will. But let's say we defect. Well, our own defection then is not just the damage of the enemy of our soul, but we ourselves have gone along with that temptation. We've given in, or maybe we even desire to give in to the temptations. Our whole person is not aligned with God's creative plan of love for us. And so there's big damage through the defection. And he says, I will heal you from your defection. I will heal you from your defection. No wonder when Jesus comes here to the Sea of Galilee, and we know this also particularly in the case of Mary Magdala, but in general it's multiple cases, and he announces the kingdom of heaven and the conversion from sin and from evil ways, but especially he's driving out Satan. He's driving out the personal force of evil. And there's so many expulsions of demons. But then it's not just to expel the demon like a doctor takes out a cancer. It's the healing. I will heal you from your defection. Actually, the understanding of the sacrament of reconciliation is that it's a much more powerful intervention in our souls than an exorcism, because it touches precisely that defection where we have not resisted evil, where we have sided with the evil doing damage to ourselves. That interior collapse, because the reality of possession is something still exterior to the core of the person, as much as it involves the person, it grips the person, but the inside of the person doesn't want it. And there's that fight inside. But in the case of sin, there's that moment of weakness, of defection, of yielding, of giving in. And I will heal you from your defection. God heals our broken nature. It's a process in which we also participate. He wants us to participate. And that's part of the exercise of Lent. Those 3 major exercises of fasting. Fasting is a decision we make, so that's our participation. Praying is also a decision we make. It's a grace that we receive to pray. It's a grace we receive to want to fast. As God gives us not only the strength to do things, but also the will to do them, the want to do them. So there's a combination of that teamwork. God wants a teamwork with us. He's given us freedom, but He will heal us from our defection. And all the great saints who have gone through to the point of martyrdom and other expressions of belonging completely to God will all admit that it's by grace, by the gift of God inside, that's enabling them to say that yes, to live that yes. I will heal you from your defection. That's a line of extraordinary hope. And then we can do what the Lord is asking us with the 2 new commandments so expressed, even though they're both taken from Deuteronomy and Leviticus that we have today in Mark's Gospel, to love God with all our heart and all our soul and all our strength, and to love our neighbor as ourself. You know, for those type of great commandments, how do we fulfill them? I'm looking at branches up here coming out of the tree trunk, and I am the vine and you're the branches. These aren't vines, but it's just a tree with the same principle holds. And the branches coming out from the trunk up there. And those branches would be dead. Like we see some twigs here that aren't fully alive on this tree. Unless they were united to the trunk of the tree. I am the vine and you are the branches. United with me, you will bear much fruit. That helps us to understand what the prophet Hosea is getting at here. This understanding that the spiritual life is God's work in us. And we should want that. We should want that freedom. We should want that gift from God. Like Jesus said to the woman at the well, if you only knew the gift of God, what He can do in us. He can turn us around. And we can start off saying, Lord, I'm not there. Put in the desire in me to live with you. Put in the desire in me to live out as your image and likeness. And not just to live out according to the dust of the earth, which is also a dimension of my being. Because the far higher principle is the breath of life you have given me, creating me as your image and likeness for an extraordinary level of love. as so many have evidenced your glory in their lives. And that beautiful plea that we have today in Psalm 81, how the Lord who is doing so much for us is saying, Israel, will you not hear me? If only my people would hear me and walk in my ways, I would feed them with the best of wheat. You see, this is it. This combination of our will, and yet it's not the force of will, because God's grace comes to strengthen our will to say yes. But our consent is needed, our want is needed. And we can say, Lord, my want is lacking. My will is weak. And this is what Jesus said at Gethsemane. Pray and watch, be vigilant, be fasting, be on the alert spiritually. Don't be sleepy, because the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Could you not watch 1 hour with me? See, all the themes are coming together here. And we're only a few weeks away from Gethsemane, from this great moment of Holy Thursday evening, to ask the Lord to be able to be with him, not to defect, to give us the strength to be faithful to that love with which he loves us so undeniably, so amazingly, so astonishingly, inexplicably, why he would dedicate so much love to us. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators. Hoping to get a little light here on the window for you as we say goodbye. And there our soul can be completely illuminated by grace, more and more and more, like Moses coming out of God's presence. God bless you. See you later, alligators.